You know what, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to answer your question in a kind of a roundabout way, as most politicians would. We've seen the troop surge in Iraq work. We've seen it work. Violence is down. The perception of the United States in Iraq is now a positive one by the Iraqi citizenry, but not by all, of course, but by a good majority of them since the troop surge. So, is it important to withdraw troops? Absolutely. I don't want troops in harm's way any more than you do. But I think that withdrawing them before they're able to do their job, I think that's just admitting defeat, and it's going to create a black hole in an area that's already a black hole.
Mr. Waterman, same question to you, and please address a participant.
I mean, it looks like the fundamental problem here, I mean, I'm seeing it a little bit from all three, is that there's this heavy focus on political isolation and, use of force, as primary methods. But how many times especially in recent history, has that really yielded good results? How has our political isolation of Cuba really worked out in getting effective policy change there? Or Iran, or Iraq? Our approach has always been, well, we'll quarantine these people off, and hopefully, their evil will fester inside them until they just die of that on their own. It doesn't make sense. What we need to do is engage these people with trade. I mean, open up, a unilateral free trade policy. Bring in, through free exchange on the market, in the marketplace of of ideals of freedom, prosperity, equality. This is, if we want to spread peace, this is the proper way. And as far as I can tell, in fact, if all three want to respond briefly, why is it that no one else seems to be advocating this when it's, there's a proven record that, economic interdependence through free trade is is an excellent means of achieving peace and equal prosperity.
We'll start with Ms. Tullo, Vice President of the College Democrats.
Well, actually, in my first response, I did talk a little bit about offering the incentive to Iran to enter the World Trade Organization. So I do agree with you that trade is essential, but on the other hand, I do feel that if those measures don't work, then there needs to be an alternative, and I think that political isolation would have to be that alternative, more so than force, because like Chris and I have both discussed, and Jim a little bit, is that you really don't want to have to utilize force. And so having political isolation as that second option is always viable, but after trade.
Trade is one of the primary things that the Democratic Socialists of America have sought to reevaluate in terms of U.S. policy. We have advocated for changes to North American Free Trade Agreement for years now because we feel that there is an inequality to that, and we do not believe that continuing to isolate nations, as you said, Kevin, is an acceptable policy. However, we do need to look at what trading with these nations is going to do, and we need to have a more thoughtful process in terms of what can be done to make sure that our agreements are not going to be taken advantage of.
Well, I'm actually going to talk about our public image a little bit. Do we really want to be trading with nations such as Iran? And I know we do have some trade relations with countries such as this, but a nation like Iran that does not allow women to go to school or women to drive or publicly executes gays. I mean, that's rewarding, by us trading with them, that's rewarding them for all the bad stuff that they're doing. So is it a terrible idea? No, and you know what, it probably would have changed the situation in Cuba around quite a bit. I'll agree with you on Cuba, but I can't see it working in a place like the Middle East.
Can I do a follow-up on that?
Briefly.
All right, the fact is you're conflating trade with the government with trade with the people. For example, a key part of what brought about change in regards to apartheid in South Africa was, a lot of companies and individuals said, all right, we're going to trade with the people of South Africa, but we will do no business with the government. Open up free trade relations isn't necessarily going to be trading with the government. And spoken with regards to NAFTA, talk about renegotiating them for the betterment, but the fact is, basically what you mean by the betterment is, increase, wages, living work standards, things like that. There are things that the economies at their current level of development can't support. So, you would break the economies of these nations to maintain trade that would end up only hurting them, wouldn't not.
Again, this has been Reina Rita Ronquillo. Thank you for listening to The Global Current. For more information and to stream our podcast, please visit www.globalcurrent.blogspot.com.